It was supposed to be an ordinary school day for 14-year-old Aaliyah Carter. She had dressed in her usual attire, black leggings and an oversized hoodie, comfortable and appropriate for a chilly morning. But when she arrived at Lincoln High School, her day took an unexpected and humiliating turn. Her homeroom teacher, Mrs. Patterson, stopped her at the door, her expression stern. "Aaliyah, where are your pants?" the woman demanded, arms crossed. Confused, Aaliyah looked down at herself. "I'm wearing leggings, ma'am." "Leggings are not considered appropriate pants. You're in violation of the dress code. You need to call someone to bring you a change of clothes or go home," Mrs. Patterson stated matter-of-factly. Aaliyah's face burned with embarrassment. She had worn leggings countless times before, just like many of the other girls in her school. But now she was being singled out, and it didn't feel right. "Other girls wear leggings all the time," Aaliyah protested, her voice shaking slightly. Mrs. Patterson shook her head. "We are enforcing the dress code more strictly now. You'll have to leave until you can dress appropriately." With no other option, Aaliyah was forced to wait in the school office, feeling humiliated as she called her father, Nathan Carter. Little did Mrs. Patterson know she had just made a massive mistake. Nathan Carter wasn't just any father. He was a self-made millionaire, the owner of Carter Tech Industries, a company that specialized in cutting-edge software and cybersecurity. His influence stretched far beyond their city, with government contracts and Fortune 500 companies relying on his expertise. But more importantly, he was a fiercely protective father who never tolerated injustice, especially when it involved his daughter. When Aaliyah tearfully explained what had happened, Nathan was furious. He immediately canceled all his meetings, climbed into his sleek black Mercedes-Benz, and drove straight to the school. The moment he stepped into the office, heads turned. Dressed in a sharp, tailored suit, exuding power and confidence, he wasn't just another upset parent. The school staff immediately sensed they had underestimated who they were dealing with. He approached the front desk, his voice calm but firm. "I need to speak with the principal, now." The receptionist hesitated. "Sir, the principal is in a meeting. Can I take a message?" Nathan's piercing gaze locked onto her. "No, you can't. My daughter was unfairly sent home for a dress code violation that doesn't seem to apply to other students. If you don't want this to become a legal matter, I suggest you get the principal." Within minutes, Principal Reynolds emerged, looking slightly nervous. "Mr. Carter, what seems to be the issue?" Nathan handed him a printed copy of the school's dress code policy. "Show me exactly where it says leggings aren't allowed." Reynolds took the paper, scanning it quickly. The policy vaguely mentioned that pants must be appropriate and non-revealing, but nothing explicitly banned leggings. Nathan continued, his voice unwavering. "I checked your student handbook, and there is no official rule against leggings. Yet my daughter was sent home. Meanwhile, dozens of other girls wear the same thing without issue. So, tell me, Principal Reynolds, why was my daughter targeted?" The principal shifted uncomfortably. I understand your concern, Mr. Carter. This may have been a misunderstanding." Nathan leaned in slightly. "No, this was discrimination. Aaliyah is one of the few black girls in this school. Are you telling me that this is strict enforcement just so happened to start with her?" Reynolds swallowed hard. "Of course not, sir. We treat all students equally." Nathan scoffed. "Then why was she publicly embarrassed and forced to call home, while others wearing the same thing were left alone? I have the resources to take this to the school board, the media, and even court if necessary. Or we can resolve it now, with a formal apology to my daughter and a revision of your so-called dress code enforcement." The principal sighed, realizing he was outmatched. "I will personally apologize to Aaliyah, and we will ensure this kind of situation doesn't happen again." "Good," Nathan said, nodding. "And Mrs. Patterson?" "She will be spoken to," the principal assured him. Moments later, Mrs. Patterson was called into the office. When she saw Nathan Carter standing there, her confidence wavered. "Mrs. Patterson," Nathan began, "I want you to understand something. You embarrassed my daughter over a non-existent rule. You singled her out in a way that no child should ever have to experience. Do you realize the damage you've caused? Mrs. Patterson stammered. I was just following what I thought was the rule. I didn't mean to. Intent doesn't erase impact, Nathan interrupted. Next time, I suggest you think twice before you humiliate a student over something as trivial as leggings, especially when your enforcement isn't equal across the board. Mrs. Patterson nodded, her face red. I understand. Nathan turned to the principal. I expect a public acknowledgement that this enforcement was wrong. If my daughter was affected, I'm sure other students have been too. Fix it. The principal agreed. Later that day, a school-wide announcement was made clarifying the dress code and apologizing for any unfair enforcement. Aaliyah received a personal apology from both the principal and Mrs. Patterson. As Nathan walked his daughter out of the building, he placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Never let anyone make you feel less than who you are. And if they try, just remember, your dad's got your back. That night, the story went viral after a local news station picked it up. Parents, students, and activists rallied around Aaliyah, calling out the school for its unfair policies. The school board quickly moved to revise its dress code to be clearer and more inclusive. As for Mrs. Patterson, she was placed on probation and required to undergo diversity and sensitivity training. And Nathan? He went back to running his million-dollar empire, knowing that he had just taught his daughter one of the most valuable lessons in life. Never let injustice go unchallenged. Because sometimes, when you mess with the wrong person's child, you learn the hard way who you're really up against.